with a video about Pikmin. Don't mind if I do. Hello, my friends. Not too long ago, I got my wishing muscles working and came up with a list of stuff I'd like to see in the upcoming Metroid Prime 4. But today I'd like to talk about a game that technically may or may not even be in development. That's right, the elusive Pikmin 4. It was confirmed to be in production years ago, and Miyamoto has teased us about it on multiple occasions, but all has been quiet on the Western Front for so long now that we have to assume the game has not, in fact, been in active development this whole time. Which, of course, leads us to the conclusion that, who the heck even knows? For all we know, we might not be getting another mainline Pikmin game anytime soon. Pikmin 4 could be announced tomorrow, or it could skip the Switch entirely and not release for another 7 years. Your guess is as good as mine. But one thing I do know is that where there's smoke, there's fire. And where there's a game Arlo wants, there's a big old list of stuff that Arlo wants to see in that game. And since there are very few games that I want more than Pikmin 4, well, I think you get the picture. There are many elements I loved in Pikmin 2 that didn't make it to 3, but if I have to pick one I want to see return the most, it just might be the upgrade system. In Pikmin 2, you collect treasures, and many of them improve the abilities of your captains. Yes, technically Pikmin 3 does use this concept, but it's to such a small degree that it hardly feels like it counts. There are 3 secret collectibles which increase defense and resistance against fire and electricity, but that's as far as it goes. Pikmin 2, on the other hand, lets you upgrade all sorts of stuff: your whistle, your punch attack, your running speed. Basically, every major ability a captain possesses can get better. This makes finding new treasures incredibly exciting and gives the game a wonderful sense of progression. It was a feature that really knocked my socks off the first time I played it, and I want to see that same system again in Pikmin 4. Instead of just liking the way the collectibles look, I want to be genuinely excited to grab them in case they can do anything cool for me. Some of the best upgrades in Pikmin 2 come after really hard bosses, which of course just makes them feel that much more rewarding. Also, honestly, if you know me, I just love collecting and upgrading stuff. I wouldn't even mind if there were multiple upgrade tiers for each ability. Maybe you can increase your max running speed a number of times. It doesn't seem very likely. I doubt they would want to complicate the process that much, but a monster can dream. And don't worry, this entire video won't just be make the game more like Pikmin 2, but while we're on the subject, I must bring up caves. I love the caves in Pikmin 2. I love how difficult they are. I love the weird random aesthetics. I love the lack of a time limit. I love so much. Now, I will fully admit that looking at the game a little more objectively, the caves probably bring the experience down a bit. It relies on them far too heavily, and some of them are incredibly long, turning Pikmin 2 into a game that's almost exclusively about these caves. I can completely understand when people dislike Pikmin 2 because of them. That's why I want Pikmin 4 to bring back caves, but also to ease up on them a bit. The idea of time stopping and having to work your way down a series of challenges without ever knowing what you'll find on the next level is a terrific one. It offers a break from the constant march of time up on the surface. It gives you a little rest in one way while potentially challenging you in a different way. It just makes for a more varied experience, and I think if they can strike a good balance, no one will be complaining. Maybe there could just be 1 or 2 caves per area. Maybe none of them could be longer than 5 sublevels. There are a lot of ways they could do it. And you know what? I wouldn't even mind if they made other, more drastic changes to how caves work. It never really made narrative sense for time to literally stop when you're down in a cave, so how about caves are explored as separate levels entirely? Like you enter a cave from the map screen, explore at your leisure, and exit right back to the ship when you're done. Maybe there are some caves to return to multiple times, like a traditional level. Ooh, maybe there's one giant underground complex that you can enter from multiple points, and you work your way through little by little throughout the game. Okay, getting ahead of myself. Save it for the full Pikmin pitch video, which is coming someday, by the way. Whatever the case, I just hope they make a return in some way. It's another thing I'm not super hopeful about. It seems like they did the one with caves, and now they're probably just done with the idea. But once again, I must at least hope. I mean, that's the video. It's a hope video, all right? Here's a less obvious hope, though. You know that movie, Hotel Transylvania 3? Well, they made a game out of it, and that game is basically a Pikmin-like. I mean, it's obvious that Pikmin was its primary inspiration. I've actually been wanting to do a whole video on it, but I just haven't nailed down how I want to do it, because that's just a weird This is a weird thing. I will say, though, that it's got some surprisingly intriguing ideas. At one point, you've got to find all these werewolf pups so they can help dig their werewolf dad out of the sand or whatever. And this got me thinking about the idea of unique scenarios with unique goals within larger levels. Pikmin 3 experiments with this idea by continually separating the captains, but the idea never really expands beyond this point, and it feels more than anything like it's just a way to teach the player how to utilize multiple captains at once. But somehow my mind keeps returning to those werewolf pups. Working your way through a Pikmin area and trying to collect everything is already your natural goal, so I like the idea of having other tasks on top of that. Finding a certain number of somethings, destroying a certain number of somethings, rescuing someone or someone's, really anything. I know I should never encourage a developer to add fluff to their games, but when I'm really enjoying a game, I actually love a little fluff. I love it when they stretch things out at least a smidge. So I even like the idea of these extra tasks emerging in areas you've already explored. I mean, other Nintendo series do it all the time. You clear an area, then later you come back to do or find something new. It's just making the most out of the assets you've created. So I'd like to see some of that in Pikmin 4. If anything, it's just another way to help break up the gameplay and the pacing. I loves me some variety. I would also love it if the game had some sort of overarching goal beyond simply grabbing enough of the collectibles. Again, I'll try to save my juiciest ideas for the pitch video, but it would be cool if you had some sort of base, or there was just something that you spend the game building. Whatever this thing is, it would be fun to collect different materials for it. Even if the game ends up having only one single type of primary collectible like usual, I'd like if it offered some kind of progression throughout the game. Like getting enough collectibles or specific collectibles would unlock new stuff and somehow move you through the story in a non-linear way and with a little more depth than just you beat the boss and get the item that opens the next level. That's kind of what we saw in 3. You beat the guy, he's got a thing in him, that opens up the next level. I want it to be a little more complex than that. In the end, you're just getting collectibles as usual. It's not that different, but it's just a nice little piece of narrative to make the player feel more empowered. On a similar note, you might find this surprising, but I would actually like to see them incorporate the Pikmin Park from Hey Pikmin. It's a complete throwaway idea in that game. It's just this little thing where your extra Pikmin go and farm Sparklium, and it's really hands-off and superfluous. Like, it's just dumb. But darn it, the idea of your spare Pikmin actually doing something instead of just hanging around inside the onion all day, that's actually a really incredible idea. One problem with Pikmin as a whole is that unless you're a newcomer, you're going to have way more Pikmin than you'll ever need. So what if you can send them to your park to do all sorts of stuff? Maybe this is a whole strategy minigame where you send units different places and quests take a certain amount of time to complete. Maybe there's even some risk involved, and if you make a bad move, you can lose your Pikmin. I'm thinking something a lot like Kenway's fleet in Assassin's Creed 4, but with adorable Pikmin instead. Okay, yeah, definitely delving too deep into this. But I've just got so many ideas. Point is, though, I think Pikmin Park has the potential to be turned into something pretty great, so I would love to see them try it out. Now, there's a problem with some of these next wishes. They might not be possible depending on the development philosophy Pikmin 4 is built upon. See, Miyamoto noticed that people like to see how fast they could beat the first 2 Pikmin games, so he thought he would make Pikmin 3 with that in mind. It's not nearly as long as Pikmin 2, it's pretty straightforward, you've got your main collectibles, and once you're done, you're done. And when you do finish, you can see where you place on the global leaderboards, which is actually pretty neat. Being speedrun friendly is a nice idea, but limiting what the game is allowed to be to better accommodate speedrunners, it's just silly. If people want to play a game fast, they'll play a game fast. No need to make it easier for them. And I would say that making your game as cool as it can possibly be is more important than anything. Any sort of thing. It's a whole conversation for a later day, for sure, but for now, I'll just say that I hope they don't worry about such a thing with Pikmin 4, and that all of the following wishes are more plausible as a result. I want Pikmin 4 to have some kind of post-game. Pikmin 2 kinda has a post-game. Technically, you only need 10,000 Pokos to beat the game and roll the credits. But doing that is laughably easy, and a whole new area unlocks, leading to way more Pokos and treasures and a whole second ending. The first ending happens so early in the game that it hardly feels like an ending, and the stuff after it hardly feels like a post-game. It doesn't really feel like you've beaten the game at all until you've gotten all the treasures, or at the very least completed the last cave and rescued Louie. So I want Pikmin 4 to have a real post-game. After you have all the collectibles and roll the credits, I think it would be fun to have some reason to return to the planet. Maybe a new set of collectibles that unlocks Super Mario Odyssey style? Some sort of goal involving sprouting a certain number of Pikmin or harvesting a certain number of enemies? Some of those unique scenarios I was talking about? Anything, really. I'm just so greedy and so Pikmin starved that any reason to keep playing a Pikmin game is a reason I can get behind. Here's a big one right here. One of the reasons that I love Pikmin 2 so much is its difficulty. When you're a seasoned Pikmineer such as myself, it can be a little hard to find yourself challenged. I can breeze through Pikmin 1 and 3 without too much trouble, but 2 provides the trickiest challenges and nastiest bosses in the whole series. Oh, some of them are so nasty. It's just a tremendous step up from the first game in terms of overall difficulty. And honestly, I want to see that happen again. It doesn't have to be super duper hard, but I do want it to be at least some harder. A difficulty spike from Pikmin 1 to 2, a difficulty spike from Pikmin 3 to 4. I mean, that's a Nintendo thing, right? Make the sequel harder? At least it used to be some decades ago or something. Now, I know Nintendo likes to make their games accessible for better or worse. The last decade or so, they've been trying really hard not to scare anyone away by making their games too hard. But everyone can have their cake and eat it too with this next wish, and that is for difficulty options. Higher difficulty on its own wouldn't compromise the speedrun ability of the game, but options probably would, so I could see why if they didn't want to include it. But to that I say, come on. There is no good reason why they can't include multiple difficulty settings. Pikmin 3 has got some dangerous scenarios, especially when it's your first time through. The Mirror Slug in particular is a disaster waiting to happen, but overall, it's easily the most forgiving game in the series. Sometimes you can actually see it trying really hard to not kill too many of your Pikmin. There are all these subtle little fail-saves. Oftentimes, a monster will be chomping down on your Pikmin, but you notice that way fewer are getting eaten than it looks. Many things that would have killed your Pikmin dead in previous games only knock them down. So, how about you just start tweaking some of these values? How about in hard mode, all enemies eat more Pikmin at a time? Hazards are more deadly. Then simple stuff like there being more enemies, enemies yielding fewer sprouts, maybe even fewer total days to reach your ultimate goal. Heck, I would even take a harder normal mode than an easier assist mode like in Super Mario Odyssey or Yoshi's Crafted World. As long as there is more than one way to play, so newbies and veterans alike can enjoy themselves fully. Next up, you know what I want to see in Pikmin 4? I want them to finally change up the challenge mode. Pikmin 1's challenge mode is a nice little addition, but it gets old pretty fast. Pikmin 2's utilizes the cave mechanic, so there are a lot more levels to complete and it's a lot more challenging. Then Pikmin 3's challenge mode offers a really nice variety of levels, some of which were DLC, and the player is tasked with either collecting a lot of fruit or defeating a lot of enemies, which is kind of a fun way to divide up the challenges. But if you know me, you will know the problem I have with all of these challenge modes. They are all timed. Most of the time, it simply comes down to doing as much as you possibly can before the timer hits 0 and, trying to chase a high score. When playing Pikmin, I enjoy trying to see how much I can do in a limited amount of time, but I feel these challenges take the idea too far. The challenge levels in Pikmin 2 are a little more along the lines of what I'm looking for. You've got to get keys and progress through the caves, but even then, the time limits can be very strict, and the whole process can feel very, very rushed. I know a lot of people love time challenges and score chasing and have probably been enjoying the existing challenge modes a whole lot. But this is a video about my own personal hopes, and I personally hope that they decide to do something more in Pikmin 4. Longtime viewers are probably sick of hearing me talk about Resident Evil Revelations raid mode by now, and I am sorry. But just look at Resident Evil Revelations raid mode! For years, the standard extra mode for Resident Evil was Mercenaries mode. This tasked players with killing zombies and getting as many points as possible within the time limit. I never found this very fun. But once Resident Evil Revelations introduced raid mode as an alternative, finally I had something to really sink my teeth into. This was a series of challenges where the goal was simply to survive to the end. You could do this at your own pace, meaning you could tackle these challenges using any number of weapons and playstyles. Then if you wanted to go the extra mile, you would get bonus points for completing stages quickly. Raid mode essentially allowed me to play Resident Evil for as many hours as I possibly wanted, even after completing the main games. And this is what I want in Pikmin 4. I want a challenge mode where the point isn't simply to rush. I want to take levels at my own pace. I want to simply see if I am good enough to beat them. And this is an especially important thing for me because even if the main game ends up being a little on the easy side, as I pretty much expect it will, challenge mode could potentially provide the more challenging Pikmin experience I'm looking for. It just needs some more variety, different kinds of challenges to work through. And actually, Resident Evil Raid Mode also has a whole leveling and upgrade system, giving you a reason to play all of its levels again and again and again, and it's wonderful! But even in my own video about wishes and hopes, I don't think I can realistically include such a feature. And now I've got a list of somewhat smaller, more specific, but still important hopes for Pikmin 4. One is co-op in the main campaign. It's funny because this isn't actually something I personally care about that much. I like the idea of working through the campaign with a friend, but I also liked the idea of working through Luigi's Mansion 3 with a friend, and that never happened because I simply do not have that much time to play games with friends. However, the lack of a cooperative campaign mode in Pikmin has been very strange. Even since the second game, reading the back of the box, you would not be at fault for thinking the whole game was two-player. But it turned out that only the challenge mode was cooperative, and of course there was a competitive multiplayer mode as well. And when Pikmin 3 came along, the lack of true campaign co-op was more confusing than ever, especially considering how they kept adding captains for you to use. With Pikmin 4, I want to see them finally do it. Split screen, system link, heck, maybe even online? That would be cool. Even if I'm not likely to play cooperatively, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would love to have the feature. Next, I am very much hoping the Go Here function in Pikmin 3 returns. I know Nintendo likes to create a new idea, then throw it in the trash and start fresh the next time around, but as with the idea of having multiple captains, I dearly hope this is one idea they don't throw out. The ability to send a captain where you need them to go without moving them yourself opens up so much strategic potential. Having them pluck Pikmin automatically is also really great. These automated processes allow you to cut back on the tedium and really focus on what needs to be done. It also makes you feel like a total tactical strategist wizard. It takes time management, which is one of the series' greatest strengths, and makes it that much better. Another thing I would like to see is the return of the Swarm ability. In the first two games, you can move all the Pikmin in your party in one big mass, but the ability is simply not present in 3. Credit where credit's due, they did a terrific job making it feel less necessary by improving upon other control elements. When I play that game, I don't miss Swarm nearly as much as I feel like I should, yet I do miss it. I do feel like it should make a comeback. There are some situations where you really want to move your group around or pick up a lot of small items without a bunch of throwing, and Swarm is perfect for that. Bring back Swarm in Pikmin form! Bring back Swarm in Okay, I'm done. And on the topic of controls, I really hope they give us them pointer controls. Wii Remote and Nunchuck is the only way I play Pikmin 3. It offers so much more freedom and precision and speed. I know without an IR sensor, Pikmin 4 would have to rely on gyro, which isn't nearly as dependable. Also, in handheld mode, I wouldn't be able to use it anyway. But when I play on the TV, I'm gonna want that option. Even a somewhat less functional pointer would be better than no pointer at all. And it probably goes without saying, but any and all motion controls should be optional. Here's a small yet big one. Pikmin 2 pulls a real Nintendo move and gives players an annoying companion character so that none of the main characters have to talk at all. This is one thing I actually really do not like about Pikmin 2. Pikmin 3 does away with the idea and has all its main characters talk, and I love this. It has more of an emphasis on its characters than any other title, and because of that, the story is the most interesting. It isn't particularly deep or anything. There are no crazy twists twists and turns along the way, but it's more than enough to keep you motivated and moving through the game. This is what I want in Pikmin 4. I want enough story to keep me engaged. In fact, I wouldn't be opposed to having even more characters than ever. I would love to learn more about Kopites and Hakatations and how their cultures work. We've had enough Pikmin games about being stranded and alone. Let's shake things up, make them a little more interesting. Final small change, unnerf electricity. In Pikmin 2, electricity is the most dangerous elemental hazard because it kills Pikmin instantly without giving you the chance to save them with your whistle. Then in 3, they made it the least dangerous elemental hazard by not having it kill Pikmin at all. They just get stunned and you have to call them to make them get up. If you ask me, I loved how terrifyingly treacherous electricity could be in 2. I can see why they changed it. They wanted to cut down on hazards that can potentially wipe out your whole team in one go for the accessibility reasons I mentioned earlier. But I'm a grumpy old man and I want my Pikmin to be harder. Difficulty settings would be a perfect opportunity to have electricity work differently based on your preference. Easy or normal mode, electricity stuns. Hard mode, it kills. Simple. Now we come to my final hope for Pikmin 4, and it is the hopiest, wishiest, most wishy hope of them all. And again, if you've been watching me for a while, you know what it is. If there is one thing I would like to see in Pikmin 4 more than anything in the whole world, it is some sort of level editor. All that stuff I was saying about Resident Evil Revelations raid mode, about how when I'm deeply in love with a certain type of gameplay, all I want to do is play around with it endlessly, well, I can only play through a campaign so many times before I'm a little bored of it. And challenge mode can only take me so far, especially in its current format. What I want is the ability to make my own Pikmin maps, and ideally share them online. This is actually another reason I want caves to make a return, to swing back around to that again. Multi-level caves are the perfect format for level creation. You could play it just like Mario Maker, controller or touchscreen. Carve out your caves, make some tunnels, place some hazards, place some collectibles, place some enemies, maybe even set some win conditions like get all collectibles, or defeat both Emperor Bulblaxes, or whatever, and you're done. It would be extremely simple to implement, and it would provide endless hours of delicious Pikmin-y entertainment. People could make these super hard challenges. There would never be a shortage of stuff to do. I could make my own levels and share them. Oh, it would be so good. Not only would my dream of having a handheld Pikmin finally come true, but I could play it forever. Just forever. I know that's not a good thing. It would probably be the end of my channel and my friendships and my life, but I don't care. It's all I want, and I will never stop wanting it. 2 final honorable mentions in the hopes department. First, this might be a little vague and perhaps more than a little worry-warty, but whenever Pikmin 4 finally reaches us, one of my greatest hopes is that it's good. Every mainline Pikmin game has been good, and I have no concrete reason to believe that 4 will be any different. But Nintendo has this way of making me worry even about things I should be completely confident in. Hey Pikmin is proof that Nintendo is willing to put the Pikmin stamp on what is, in my opinion, a very weak product. And the casualization of Paper Mario, which used to be a top 5 series of mine, will never stop hurting. I know Nintendo has this tendency to radically shift how they think a series should be, or to come up with some sort of gimmick and sacrifice a lot of what makes a series great in order to hold up that gimmick. Pikmin is not immune to poor direction, because no Nintendo series is immune to poor direction. In my opinion, Skyward Sword is also proof of that. Even their most important series can go astray sometimes. Pikmin 3 is terrific, but it does scale back a lot of the depth from 2. Will they scale things back even further in an attempt to casualize the series and make it even more accessible? Again, I have no real reason to believe that. Nintendo has been providing more hits than misses this generation. But when it comes to what is perhaps my very favorite video game series in the world, I can't help but keep my fingers a little bit extra crossed that they will do it right. And second honorable mention, I hope the game comes out while I'm still alive. Even if it's not this year, or next year, or maybe even the year after that. Even if we just end up getting a port of Pikmin 3 to tide us over for a while, I hope that the game is in active development and decently far along at the very least. I hope that it's at least scheduled to release on the Switch and not its successor, because we had to wait 9 years to get Pikmin 3, and now we've been waiting another 7 years since then. Is it going to be 9 years again? Because when Pikmin 3 came out, if you told me it would take another 9 years to get Pikmin 4, I am almost certain that I would have cried literal tears. I mean, 5 years between Zeldas is already bad enough. That already feels like an eternity. But what if Pikmin 4 rounds it up to a full decade? Heck, might as well make it 15. Maybe when I'm 80 years old, I'll be able to count the number of Pikmin games that came out after 3 on one hand. Pikmin teams are always working on the next one, indeed. I just realized I'm ending the video on something of a bummer note, so hey, it's Pikmin. Good fun Pikmin time. Why don't you head down to the comments and let me know what your highest hopes are for the hypothetical Pikmin 4. Do you share any of my hopes? Do you have any really big ones that weren't on my list? Or are you at that point where you don't even care what it's like as long as it just comes out already? Whatever the case, thank you for watching, and it's always so sad to get to the end of a video about Pikmin. I just love talking about Pikmin so much, and yet I don't get to do a lot of videos on it, so I'd just like to savor this final moment for a bit, if you don't mind. Okay, I'm done.